Have you got some great songs but no one is listening? Are you struggling to find your audience? Worry no longer. Go to musiciansmap.org/free-book and download a copy of the free ebook, How to Get Your Music Heard. It talks about growing your fan base, finding your niche and getting your music out there. The essential foundations you need and the steps to take to get your music heard. How to Get Your Music Heard. Get it now at musiciansmap.org/free-book. Welcome to the Musicians Map podcast. This week I'm talking to Sam Holdom, who is the drummer for Auckland alternative rock band Skinny Hobos. Skinny Hobos have been around for about 4 years and have risen quite quickly to become one of the country's top live acts, despite only having released 4 singles. They've toured and gigged relentlessly, played festivals, and shared the stage with some huge bands, most recently Biffy Clyro for their Auckland show. Sam talks about the formation of Skinny Hobos and the reasons behind their success. We discuss recording, touring, radio, getting support slots, and lots more. Sam and I caught up over Skype.
I play covers, man. I still love playing Wonderwall. It's still a great song in my eyes. It's got that was my first album that I really connected with. So
yeah,
I think when I was 13 or 14, I bought Blink-182's "Take Off Your Pants and Jacket."
Yeah.
I bought that at 14, and that changed my life. Like that, I was introduced to Travis Barker, to punk drumming, to the energy and excitement of punk music, and that really took it to another level. It was around that time I decided I'm going to be a musician one way or another. I'm going to play the drums, and that's just what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
If I look back now and with a more composed mind think of that decision, I'm like, Sam, you're an idiot. Don't do this. But I'm here now.
Yeah.
And then 2010, I moved to Dunedin to study a Bachelor of Music, majoring in contemporary performance. But yeah, throughout that time in Dunedin, I played with so many different types of musicians and so many different types of music that I think I learned a lot of what I know now from I learned a lot from the school itself, but I learned a lot more by simply being a musician, gigging, writing, playing, jamming with people. I released an EP and an album with one band, Hunting Bears. I played in another blues band and a metal band by the time I had left Dunedin. So I was branching myself out as much as I could and just keeping busy.
Yeah.
And that ended. Dunedin ended in 2013. I moved back up to Auckland, got a job with a rock shop where I met, in a cruel twist of fate, my guitarist for Skinny Hobos. So we knew each other in high school, and then we met again at the rock shop. We had one jam, and we're here 4 years later. So that's kind of been the story of the last 4 years has been Skinny Hobos.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you guys obviously met, hit it off, and went, let's jam, and it was as easy as that.
Pretty much, man. I mean, it was funny. When we first knew each other in high school, because we played in the same rock quests, we were competing bands in rock quest. I didn't actually like Alex at all. I thought he was an arrogant prick, and he knows this. I've told him this before.
Yeah.
So it's totally okay for me to say it. But yeah, I just wasn't a fan of him. We met again working at the rock shop in 2014, and he wanted to play guitar. I was a manager, so I had a key. He was like, hey, can you stick around? I want to play this guitar. Okay, sure. Oh, there's a drum kit. I'll play it while I'm here. We'll have a jam. We came up with 4 songs in the next half hour.
Yeah.
And we kind of sat down after that, and we're like, so did we just start a band? I think we did. I think we just started a band.
Mean.
Yeah, and so it really was all on from that first jam, which was, sometimes right time, right place, right connections, magic just happens. I've known a lot of bands that have worked hard and they've got members in and out and they've tried to really push things and force it, and that's cool because you're passionate about it, you want to do it, but sometimes you've just got to realize that the right thing really is just a perfect marriage of so many factors that you can't control.
Yeah, and it is. I think, how do you wait for that to come along, though? It's happened to me a few times. I've been in many bands, and the bands that have done well and that I've enjoyed, you, for some reason or another, you meet some people, or even if you find them online and you meet up and it goes well, and you kind of know, just like what you were talking about, sort of almost straight away, you're like, yeah, okay, I think this is going to be good and we're going to be a band. And after the first jam, you kind of go, yeah, all right, let's continue. But I've jammed with so many people and it hasn't been like that.
Yeah.
Do you just keep going until you find that connection, I suppose?
Yeah, well, you definitely can't stop just trying and playing with new people. I guess what I learned, and especially my time at uni, because there were so many diverse people. I mean, our assessments at university were literally, we got a song on the Friday, we got the sheet music on a Friday, learned it over the weekend, and on Monday would come in, sit in the studio, and they'd go, right, drummer, bassist, singer, guitarist, play the song. So we had to learn how to play with anybody, right, pretty much right off the bat. And that really taught me to understand different musicians, understand different styles, how to communicate with people, but also learn that in a very quick time, the signs, I guess, on people that may not be the best fit for me, maybe not the best communicator, or maybe they communicate too much, or our ideas just don't gel. It's reading situations and reading people that, well, not even reading people, reading music and then reading a vibe off of people.
Yeah.
But it's definitely there's only one way to do it. The more you play, the more people you play with, the more likely you are to find that connection eventually.
So what was it about Alex and yourself? What wavelength did you find in common?
Honestly, like pretty much everything. Like from the first jam, he was like, I've got this riff. I was like, okay, I'm fair in that. I play one beat, and he'll tell you that he's incredibly creative. He's always got ideas running through his head, guitars, drums, bass, whole productions. And he'll tell me often that the drums that he has in his head are exactly what I play. Like, I don't know if I read his riff in the same way, or we just have a similar musical minds. Despite coming from, especially in the last sort of 10 years, very different musical backgrounds, we have similar musical minds in that we tend to know what the other one wants out of their part,
Sure.
And even segments like if we're just jamming, we'll just kind of look at each other and then go bang and change into the same thing at the same time without discussing it. It's really telekinetic, I guess, but without the whole magic gizmo behind it. It's just a connection that you can't quantify.
You guys got together and you started jamming and started playing shows. Something that I've found unique about Skinny Hobos is that you've been a band for 4 years and you currently have 4 songs. One released yesterday, which is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Why haven't you guys recorded an EP or jumped into an album? What's the kind of thinking behind that?
It's funny that you say that, because we have recorded an album, and we recorded it in September 2015. Yeah, September 2015. And that album is coming out next month, May 18. It's coming out. I say next month now.
Yep.
So it's been a long time. Whether it was by choice or not, I don't know. So a quick timeline. We actually went into the studio at the start of 2015, about February 2015. We went to Tsunami Sound Studios in Levin, and we recorded what was intended at the time to be an EP. We did that. It was fun, but then we got the tracks back and we heard them because we did it all tracked, click, drums,
yep.
Then guitar, then bass. And we heard the tracks back and we just thought, it wasn't right. It didn't feel, the vibe wasn't there. The overall sound wasn't there. So we regathered and kept jamming, and then we were like, okay, we've come this far, bugger it, let's do an album because we have enough songs, and let's do it live. Because we decided that was the way that we really need to capture the sound, was live. So we booked Roundhead for September 2015 with Nick Portman, and got in the studio and smashed out 10 tracks, bass and drums in a day. So we recorded it as you see it live.
Yep.
Alex playing, me playing, pedal boards, obviously amps isolated, but Alex and I in the same room with his pedal boards in front of him so we can control the sound. So we recorded the guts of the album there in one day, and that was a lot of fun. It was grueling. But the pre-production up to that was equally grueling, and we might get into that later because I won't digress too much. So we did the recordings, we started getting the mixes back, and we were like, okay, we need to... we did Rock the Park in Greyland Park with She Had, Villainy, and Blacklist. And it was before that time, we were just thinking, okay, we have these tracks, we need to release one, we need to get one out there, which one do we do? We decided on one, and it was one that The Rock in particular really liked. So we got that ready for the single release, and I started talking to a few people, and I was like, right, okay, how are we going to do this? And we decided that if the first single goes well, then we'll do, I guess, the classic roadmap of single, 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 album, right? Release single, build hype, do the album. If it didn't go well, we'll just drop the album, because bugger it, you know? If it doesn't go well, then nobody cares, we'll just do it for ourselves. Merchant of Tito was a single that we released April 4th, 2016, and to say it went really well, I think is an understatement. The Rock picked it up, and it took off. It hit number 150 on their Rock 1500 countdown that year, which is 1500 listener-voted songs. So to get in the top 10% was pretty cool. And so we went down that route of single, single, single album. And long story short, we gigged too much to focus our time properly on releasing music.
Sure.
We're very much fans of the live playing. We love getting out there and playing. It's just what we do. So we just did show after show after tour after tour. We toured with Villainy. We toured with Devil Skin in December. And so we kind of just did what we could in around the rest of our lives as well. You know, we both have full-time jobs. We're both working. We've both got outside interests. And so it just a culmination of all of those things just led to us slowly getting the songs out.
Yep.
So yeah, it was Merchant of Tito was April 2016, September or October 2016 was Jokers and Fools, June 2017 was Suburban Living, and then April this year was Jack. So it's been a long time between drinks, longer than we would have liked. And moving forward, we know that that wasn't the best route, but we have the systems in place to make it happen quicker next time as well, which is nice.
Well, I mean, usually bands that wait that long between singles would be scared that they would lose the momentum that they're creating. But I don't think you guys have you? Because you gig so much, and there's quite a lot of high-profile gigs and tours. You know, your momentum is building, whether or not you're releasing music or not. And I think your album's gonna be massive. Let's kind of go back a little bit to that first decision to scrap the EP. Most people would listen to it and go, it's not really what we wanted, but we paid for it and we did it. Let's put it out anyway, call it a demo, and get on with it. Why didn't you do that?
Because we've kind of, subconsciously or not, I think we consciously made a decision at some point during 2015. So 2015, we played a crap ton. We played we played every week pretty much. We did 57 shows in a year, and it was somewhere along that line that we kind of decided this is something that can work, and this is a band, an entity that people were liking it enough, we were getting a good enough response, and it was easy enough for us to manage that we figured this might be, you know, a band that we can take to the next level. And so when we did that EP and heard it back, we listened to it and we thought, no, if we want to release our best music and we want to release music that represents us as well as we possibly can, this is not the release to do it with. What it was a great learning curve, because we learned basically about ourselves. It was a self-discovery journey, really.
Yep.
And we discovered ourselves in the studio, what it sounds like what the Skinny Hobos songs sound like actually recorded. But yeah, we made the conscious decision that if we're going to release anything, it has to be as good a quality as we can. It's got to be the top quality, or else what's the point? If you're not releasing anything good, don't release it at all. That was kind of our motto.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that simply was not reflective of what we felt our music was supposed to be. So
yeah.
we took it, we said, cool, we know the songs, that's in the, you know, we'll put that aside, put that in a different box, but we know how to go do it better from here. We know how to move forward and make a good quality record, and we believe that with this album we have. I mean, all the singles that you've heard have come out of that album recording session.
Yeah.
All those tracks, just obviously edited and mixed, whatever. But yeah, the album will be those songs plus, I think it's an 8-track album now, so it'll be 4 other songs. It's about 35, 40 minutes in length.
And so that decision to, you know, either do it the best you can or not do it, that obviously led you to what is probably the best studio in the country, to record your debut record. And just as a side note, let's not get into this quite yet, but this is all independent, right?
Yep, all independent.
So you guys went, right, if we're going to do it, let's do it properly. Let's book the best, probably the most expensive studio in the country, open to the public, and get this kick-ass engineer to do it as well. Just leapt in and just kind of fingers crossed. I mean, did you only book one day or did you book more?
We only booked one day at the time because we looked at the recording costs, we looked at the engineering costs, and we thought, if we're going to do it live, we're pretty sure we can get it done. And so we pre-pro'd for about 3 weeks to work on the songs, time it all, and I made our own click tracks. We mapped out everything in the 3 weeks leading up to it, spent hours on it, and eventually we were like, okay, cool, we can get 10 songs done in one day. Let's do it. Because we wanted to get it done as efficiently and cheaply as possible, but also as good as possible.
Yeah, totally. That sounds like a great approach. Tell me more about the pre-production process. So you've sat down in a studio or in your jam room and mapped out all of the click tracks and then just, constant rehearsal, or are you being more analytical about it?
It was a little bit of both. So we used, it's gone now, RIP, but the Basement in Takapuna, which is an awesome rehearsal studio. We were really lucky. Robbie, shout out to Robbie James, by the way. If you hear this, Robbie, that's for you. He was really awesome to us. So he let us the use of his space. We were there kind of 2-3 times a week over 3 weeks, and then we just stayed set up for a week and pretty much just were there every other day. So we had the songs by that point. So the pre-production was really about mapping out each song, going through each part and figuring out, obviously tempo was one thing. Sound-wise, Alex was deciding between different guitars, different effect settings, what exact sound he wanted. I think he took 3 or 4 guitars into the studio. So we had this big sort of whiteboard. I mean, my parts, the drums are drums. They're not terribly complicated in terms of the design point behind them. I had made up the parts by then, and it was just a case of getting in and playing it. But the guitar sound especially was very much crafted in terms of what guitar he used, what effect settings he was using, when he was changing patches. And so a lot of it was just crafting the little bits of the song. We had the bulk of the songs, so crafting the little bits of the songs, a stop here, a change there. But really the most interesting thing actually was playing to the click and putting a metronome in and going, okay, we play the songs really differently live in the sense that, you think when you play a song, especially as a drummer, you think, my timing's down, I fluctuate a little bit here or there, but the tempo's pretty solid throughout the entire song. Far from it. Far from it.
Yeah.
A lot can change between a verse and a chorus, especially when the feel of the beat changes. Play a song at a straight tempo and get to a chorus and all of a sudden think, holy crap, this chorus is really fast or really slow. It feels the same when you play it live without a click, but when you put it to a click, you realize how many subtle changes there are in a song.
Yeah.
And so we had so we'd map out a verse and then go, okay, the chorus needs to be faster. Let's kick it up 3 BPM, 4 BPM, And we did that and we go, okay, yeah, that feels better. That feels more comfortable now. And it's so subtle that on the recording, even I don't hear the actual change in tempo because the feel of the song changes as a whole.
Sure. And
that's how they translate live as well. They always sped up or slowed down a little bit, which is why you should have seen my metronome app I had at the time had just one song was just 17 click changes.
So you were just using an app on your phone and just wearing headphones?
During the pre-production process, yes, I had a metronome app that I could map out. So go X bars at X tempo and then switch to X bars, X tempo, et cetera, et cetera. So it would go through and change it on the fly for me.
Awesome.
In the studio, I gave that map to Nick and I said, here's our tempo map that out on Pro Tools. And he did, and it worked really well.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the bass aspect. You guys have bass on your recordings, but you're a 2-piece live. How does that work?
Yes. So the bass, he runs one guitar signal that runs into a octave pedal. Now that octave pedal has a sub out and a dry out. The sub out is the bass signal. That's the first thing the guitar goes into. The sub out goes through a distortion and a fuzz and a compressor and whatever else. And that runs out into a bass amp. So whatever he plays on his guitar goes through that signal chain and is split out to a bass amp. And that's how his bass sound works.
Sweet.
Our music's very riff-based. It's all single-string riff-based, as you've heard. But the way the sound is compressed it's to a point where he can actually play a chord and have the chord come out the guitar amp with really only the sort of the bottom end of the chord coming out of the bass amp. It's a little bit muddy, but the clarity from the guitar cuts over that and actually, makes that whole thing. He can play a bass note and a chord at the same time.
Yeah. Who needs a bassist?
Not us.
Not you guys.
It's funny though, in the first couple of years, like how many people were coming up to us and being like, even my old man who saw us quite a few times, he was like, first few gigs, he was like, Sam, I love it, love the songs, love the sound, you guys need a bassist. And people would come up to us after shows and being like, oh, you guys need another member, do you need a bassist? I'd love to come jam with you. And we're like, yeah. We kind of just like the two of us.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough too. Something that you said before when you released your first single, and you said that The Rock liked it, so you decided to pursue it. Was that just because you put it out into the world and the radio station kind of picked it up and started playing it, or was there someone that you talked to that said, hey, they'll probably play that, or we'll probably play that? What did you kind of mean by that?
I think we knew during the album writing process, we kind of knew that was the most accessible song, the most radio friendly, and the best song that people could latch on to. We didn't sort of realize why at the time, but after talking to everyone from managers to producers to ex-executives to radio people, the general consensus is that because that riff is so simple, so catchy, and it's always there in the song. No matter where you're listening, you jump into it and there's that riff, so you can grab onto it immediately. And that's what catches people. And I don't know if I consciously thought about that at the time. Alex probably did. We made the decision that was going to be the first single, and so when we got it together for prepping for mastering and releasing all that, that's when we went to The Rock and said, hey, here's a song, would you guys be interested? And they saw us at Rockford Park, and that was kind of where that conversation sort of first started with them. Not directly with us and them. Originally, it was through a third party. Charlie Smith, if you're seeing this, again, shout out to you for the connection. So, yeah, that was where that connection first started, and I think we released it April 4th, and they picked it up May for their Kiwi Rock Soundcheck segment, and it has taken off on its own since then.
So who's Charlie, and what is that connection?
Charlie is Alex's old flatmate, actually. Yep. But he used to work for a company called the Music and Production Agency. He's been in bands. He's been in Fire at Will, who had radio play, and he was kind of the driving force behind, as far as I understand, behind their sort of radio connections. So he's worked with radio people in the past. He now plays in a band called Dead Favors, who are also awesome. You should check them out. They've just opening for Royal Blood next month, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
So yeah, he's been a drummer and in the scene for a long, long time, and he just helped us out a lot in our early days.
So he just he just knew someone at the station and sort
pretty
of
much.
Hey, I know this awesome band. There's got a really cool song. Do you want to check it out?
Pretty much. Yeah, that was kind of how it worked, and in a lot of cases, as far as I understand, that can be how that kind of thing works.
Yeah.
Someone knows someone, shows them something. Oh, all right, this is cool. Let's go from there.
Yeah, well, it goes back to you trust the recommendations from people you know, right? So if someone random comes up to you and says, this is my band, listen to my song, you're like, yeah, I get that 20 times a day. But if someone that you know knows what good music is, comes up and says, no, I listen to the song, then you're probably going to listen, aren't you?
100%. Yeah, exactly. You trust people, once you know people's tendencies, absolutely. You're like, I can trust you with that. All right, let's give it a go. If you say it's good, it must be good kind of thing.
Yeah. So you went to #1 on the iTunes rock charts.
I think that went to number 2.
Number 2.
I think Merchant went to number 2. I think. Maybe it did hit number. Nah, I'm pretty sure it hit number 2 because it was behind like either Evanescence or Disturbed at the time.
Yeah.
I know. How is The Sound of Silence still on the iTunes rock charts? Like, does someone just create new accounts to buy that every day? It's amazing.
Yeah. It's the singer. He's just watching the video over and over again, buying copies of the song with different emails.
Dear.
Can you maybe shed some light on how that works? What does that mean exactly to get to that sort of position on a rock chart of New Zealand rock chart?
Yeah. So the charts, as far as I understand, are a record of sales within a certain period of time. So for us to get to a position on a chart, number 3 or whatever it was, the way to kind of land on the charts is through pre-sale. So you set up a pre-sale link, people can buy the pre-sale, and that way, at time of release, all those sales come through at once, and it places itself based on how many sales are in that current period of time.
Yep.
Which is why, so as the day goes on, we saw it sort of drop and change, and it moved around, and that was because that obviously that fixed period of time would move, and different sales happen, different songs are being bought or streamed or whatever. I think the iTunes charts is iTunes sales as well as Apple Music plays, but I need to confirm that, so don't quote me on that. But because those two platforms are obviously cross-linked with Apple, I'm fairly certain that's how they work these days.
Yep.
I know that the Recorded Music New Zealand charts, so the singles charts, they take into account sales as well as streaming now. So if you stream a song really well in its first couple of weeks or its first day, so the RMNZ charts would be sales on the first day and then consistent streaming after that. And if you can get consistent streaming, then RMNZ actually takes that into account with their charts.
Mm.
So it's a combination of both now. Obviously, with the rise of streaming, recorded music has changed drastically, and the way we judge recorded music has changed drastically. I mean, one of my favorite examples recently was Ed Sheeran with his latest album, the ARIA charts in Australia. Every single song on the album was in the singles chart, despite the fact that there were, not every song was a single. But that's because the entire album was streamed so many times that the songs received that much play to get on that chart.
Wow.
Yeah.
For a band like you guys, especially at that time, relatively unknown, to get to that kind of ranking, did that just put you in front of just a much larger audience? Did you notice any kind of upturn from that?
A little bit. Not much larger at the time. The rock scene is still nowhere near as thriving as it was even 5-10 years ago. That definitely started the trajectory where we are going to shows and, going to play shows, and just slightly more people were turning up at first, but people were singing along. We did a tour to coincide with that release, and we did a split release EP with Quinn the Human, another Auckland band you should check out, who have just released an EP as well. So we did a tour with them, and we recognized people on that tour sing along to that song because it was out there in the ether, and we could tell they were gravitating to that because they knew it.
Mm.
So that was what we really noticed from that release was, backing up the release with the live shows and then seeing the return from the live shows, people buying CDs, people singing along to the song, engaging more with the band as a whole. That was a return that we saw on that, really.
Yeah. What about live shows? So you guys obviously, as you've said, and evidently have played an absolute ton, but you're doing headline tours, but you're also doing support slots for some pretty massive acts. And I mean, you guys just opened for Biffy Clyro last week or this week.
And that was pretty cool.
And that's huge, man. And how does, let's start with that. How did that happen? How do you get asked to play that? Who do you have to talk to? What sort of status do you have to have accomplished to get a slot for Biffy Clyro?
I don't know the exact answer to that question. There are a lot of different factors that go into something like that. So the way the process worked for us, as far as I know, is we, I think our manager, a guy called Tony Cowper, shout out to him as well, Tony contacted the touring company. This is what I understand how it happens. You contact the touring company, and so Live Nation in this case, Queens of the Stone Age are being brought over by Frontier, and whatever, DRW, there's some others out there. So you contact the touring company, you send them your music, you say, hey, this is us, we'd love to be considered for the show, here's our press kit, here's our latest singles, here's our releases, music videos, promo, etc., etc. They then take that to the band, the touring band, and the band then they curate the list of bands, take it to the band, and the band say, right, which one do we want to open for us? So we got an email last Monday or Tuesday, from Live Nation or a representative of Live Nation saying, hey, just getting in touch, would you be interested and available to open for Biffy Clyro at Spark Arena on the 24th of April? And both of us saw that email. So we have a Skinny Hobos email address that we both have access to, and we both saw the email, and within a minute of receiving the email, had messaged our group chat that we have saying, so we're opening for Biffy next week. And that was pretty much it. So in the day, so they contacted us. We got back and said, yep, we're interested and available. They said, cool, this is the deal. Here's the agreement. If you're happy, sign it, get it back to us, and you're on board. And Amazing. That's exactly what happened. That all happened in the space of about 3 hours. It was announced 2 days later, and then we played it less than a week later.
Man, crazy.
It's not always like, I mean, that's kind of the general process. It's not always that late in the piece.
Yep.
From what I gathered as well from inside sources that I shall not name, the decision to get us on board was actually made a lot earlier, like a month, 6 weeks ago. Again, that's a rumor that I hear from an inside source. Yeah. Why the contact isn't made until so late, I don't know. In total contrast, Dead Favors, who are opening for Royal Blood, that was announced last year, like October or November or something. Then you get other instances like Queens of the Stone Age, who came and played at Logan Campbell a couple months ago, and they had a band. Oh yeah, great show, right?
Yeah.
The opening band for the Queens of the Stone Age, Eyes No Eyes. That is a classic example of a headlining band simply picking the band that they want to open for them, and that's generally the case, is that the band makes a final decision on whoever opens for them.
Yep.
It's just the touring company that facilitates the whole thing.
Wow. That's really interesting, right? Like, you wonder how Eyes No Eyes got on Queen's radar, and how, who's putting them forward. Like, if they were chosen from day one, we're going to New Zealand. Oh, okay, cool. Let's get this band to open for us. Like, yeah.
I would love to know what goes on in the war room exactly. I mean, it would still be the same case. I'd say that they would have put their name forward to the touring company, and then the touring company would have put them forward to the band as a suggestion.
Mm.
And that's just then after that, personal taste, I guess. But yeah, I always wonder, because when we do our headline tours, which have a few and far between, but when we're doing our headline tours and picking support bands for that, in the past, I've pretty much just done my research, just gone to, okay, we're going to Palmerston North. Who are the bands in Palmerston North? And I go, right, find the bands, listen to the music. That sounds cool. They've got a good following. They're, regularly updating on social media, so they've got their promo down. Let's do it. Let's get you along.
And is that how some domestic artists, so some of the tours you've been on, maybe with Villainy or with Devilskin, is that how that happens for you guys, or do you know some of the guys in those bands? Do they just reach out and say, hey, you want to come on tour with us?
Kind of a little column A, a little column B for those ones. Yep. And that's really the same for us as well. Now that I know a few bands, I'll often reach out and say, hey, we know you're cool. Do you want to come play with us again?
Yeah.
The Devilskin tour was I've met their manager through various channels over the past couple of years, and I've mentioned him more than once, if Devilskin want to support acts, Skinny Hobos are keen. We'll come along and jam with you. And so, yeah, that tour in 2016 we did with them, that was pretty much that.
Yeah.
Got a call at band practice. Sam, what are Skinny Hobos doing for the summer? You want to come tour with Devilskin? Yes, we would like to tour with Devilskin. And we did, and it was a lot. That was our first, the Villainy tour was our first sort of big-ish tour. Yeah. That was a lot of fun, that tour. That was our first taste of that, I guess, bigger New Zealand show kind of thing, and the whole support act job, what a support act needs to do.
Yep.
So that was really cool. Thanks, Villainy, for taking us on that one. Devilskin was a bit of a step up, because we had to then provide our own production, our own sound person, and bring all our backline, and it was a bit more intense, definitely, and a lot more travel as well. But we had a van by that point, which made things a crap load easier.
Yeah.
Because, if I could walk out, actually, I don't have my van here right now. It's at my parents' house. But we have a giant high ace that fits the band and all our backline and our sound tech and one more person. So, bandwagon in one.
So are you guys at the point where you're asking for a fee per show, or are you kind of, yes, so you are, rather than just sort of going, we'll take whatever we get on the door, are you going out and going, right, we want this much to play for Skinny Hobos to play?
Pretty much, yeah, because at the end of the day, our band is a brand.
Yeah.
Like any other business, it's a brand, and our brand attracts a certain amount of people, and our brand has a value to us, and we try and get that value. Now, it's different in music. It's always difficult because touring is expensive. As anyone will tell you, as I'm sure you know, playing gigs, touring is expensive. So there aren't always a lot, there's not always a huge piece of the pie to go around. So that's a negotiation thing where you'll often get an offer up front, and they'll say, we want you to come aboard, we can offer you this. We'll come back and say, well, how about this and this? Maybe you try and get a slightly different deal, and it's just a negotiation thing.
Yeah.
Something like Spiffy, for example, we got an offer for that. We didn't really refute it because we felt the offer was reasonably fair up front. So we're like, okay, we're happy with that. We'll take it, and the exposure of the brand that gets us will add extra value onto that, obviously, as well.
Yeah, totally.
And that's happened with the Villainies tour and the Devilskin tours as well. Is that the exposure that the brand has had through those tours, reaching newer markets, getting new fans, selling merch as well. Obviously, that's added value into it.
Yep.
And that's something that can be negotiated in the in the fee as well. As say, okay, well, you won't pay us more, but will you either sell our merch for us or give us good placement on the merch?
Yep.
Because that can be as much of a moneymaker as anything, selling shirts, CDs, whatever you've got. I think we're going to get some ties and bandanas and cup holders and hats and pins and underwear and weird things like that for our next tour.
Yeah, man. Yeah, people love that shit.
Yeah, I know. The weird little small things, people love it.
Yeah. So was there a point that you noticed where the Skinny Hobos brand became more powerful, where you could demand a higher fee rather than just taking whatever cut was available?
Sort of yes and no. I mean, we've definitely seen a gradual increase. There was no concrete point, like turnaround point, where I said, yes, cool, we can now. But as things have gradually gone on, I think the release of each single and the fact that the radio is still picking up each single, the fact that Spotify picked up our third single on a playlist, and Spotify and Apple Music have picked up Jack Like the Ripper, our most recent single, on playlists as well. So when you start getting those little bits of recognition, playlists, charting, even radio play, like the fact that The Rock still have a couple of our singles on rotation at the moment. Yeah, that's where you can sort of start asking for a little bit more or saying no sometimes if the offer's not good enough.
Sure.
Which we don't like saying no because we love playing shows. But sometimes we have to look at the landscape as a whole and go, right, well, we've got this coming up. There's that gig we have to think about. This is the offer. Is it worth, is it worth our time and the value to our brand to say yes to this one? And sometimes, more recently, up until a year ago, we said yes to pretty much everything.
Yep.
But there has come a time recently where, for one reason or another, we've just had to say sorry, but no, we just can't do this one.
Yeah.
Can't or won't. I don't know. Take your pick.
So
either.
Is Skinny Hobos sustainable as a band? Like, are you guys making enough to cover your costs, like touring and recording, or are you yet to get there?
No, it's definitely we're sustainable as a band. We're earning it. We earn enough from our shows. We sell enough merch. We get even sales and streaming income. That's not a huge chunk of the pie, but it's enough to keep it going.
Yep.
We're definitely self-sufficient, and we can thrive as a standalone band, as a standalone business. Now, it can't keep us as individuals alive. We would have died a long time ago if we tried to do that. Either us personally or the band, either or.
Yep.
So we both have full-time jobs. We both earn, we both work full-time. We both live in flats. We both have expenses, and the band can't cover that. And I think that runs true for the majority of bands in New Zealand, is that while the band is amazing, it doesn't keep you alive.
Yeah. What do you think it would take to get Skinny Hobos to a point where it was a full-time endeavor?
Honestly, I think my projections say full-time touring, and even then, you're not necessarily earning personally out of that. The band is simply keeping you alive.
Yeah.
In terms of taking you to the next town, buying you your next breakfast and dinner, getting you your next bed, and that's all. That can all come out of the touring earnings.
Yeah, and that would mean international as well, because you couldn't sustain it in New Zealand.
100%. New Zealand is too small. There aren't enough markets here. There aren't enough people. So that would be international touring. We can sustain ourselves on a tour, but even then, the tour that we're doing coming up in May is all weekends. So it's Friday, Saturday, then come back, go to work. Friday, Saturday tour, come back, go to work. So it's a balance. So, but if it was, I've always, the dream I've had, and I did this with another band a few years ago, is to just get in a car and go, and just go tour, city, and just be in the van for 2-3 weeks on the trot.
Yep.
Which is tough because there are a lot of things that go into that. Money is the least of your problems going into that. Believe me. Band dynamics are really tested. Personnel dynamics are really tested in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, to be really 100% full-time musician, it's either you're looking for vocations outside of the band that you're in, covers, teaching, writing, producing, or you're international touring full-time.
Yeah. So what about the future of Skinny Hobos? What are you guys looking to do? You've got a new album coming out very shortly. Where do you kind of hope to take it?
Pretty much exactly that, international touring. You know,
Yep.
This is the band that we've decided it's going to be the band that we live or die by, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
Not literally. But yeah, we're gonna push this as long and as hard as we can until either it dies or we die. One of the two.
And that's all for this week. Thank you so much to Sam. Check out Skinny Hobos at facebook.com/Skinny Hobos and skinnyhobos.bandcamp.com. They've got a record out on May 18th, so put that date into your calendar and buy it as soon as it comes out. Sam's recommendation for Artist of the Week is Baker's Eddy. Baker's Eddy have actually been Artist of the Week before, but I'm gonna let it slide since it's never happened that two people have chosen the same band before, which means these guys must be something special. Check them out at facebook.com/Baker's Eddy and bakerseddy.co.nz. Also, head to facebook.com/musiciansmap and hit like to keep up to date with new podcast episodes. This podcast and the website musiciansmap.org is dedicated to sharing knowledge and advice about music and the music industry. It's all about community, honesty, and positive progress. The experiences, stories, and advice shared on the podcast are given freely with the hope that you can relate to them and benefit from them. If you've found this podcast enjoyable or useful, make sure to check out the Musician's Map ebook and audiobook about building success in music. You'll find it at musiciansmap.org/books, Amazon, and Audible, and buying a copy of the book directly contributes to the continuation of this podcast. There's also a free ebook, How to Get Your Music Heard. Go to musiciansmap.org/free-book to get your copy. If you have a suggestion for the podcast or for the YouTube channel, or you just want to get in touch and say hello, please do so via the Musicians Map Facebook group or by email at kane@musiciansmap.org. Thanks for listening and stay positive.